So good evening. I'm Maria Clave. I think I know most of the people in the room. I'm the 5th president of Harvey Mudd College, and I'm really delighted to have you here with us tonight for the first Annenberg leadership speaker of this year. So I'd like to start by expressing our gratitude to the Annenberg Foundation and to trustee and class of 1989 alumnus Howard DeShong and his wife Jeanette for providing us this opportunity each year to bring distinguished executives and industry leaders to Claremont to share their valuable knowledge and experience. And I also just want to say that Howard DeShong is now the proud parent of a first-year student at Harvey Mudd College. Come on in, Stephanie. And I'm particularly excited that this evening we're actually welcoming a member of our community, Endre Holen, who is the father of 2016 Harvey Mudd alumnus Perry Holen. And Perry, where are you sitting? There he is over there. Welcome back. Endre is a senior partner at McKinsey Company, the leading global management consulting firm. He spent his entire 28-year career leading McKinsey's global telecom and technology practice, during which he has helped restructure companies like Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, Nokia, T-Mobile, Xerox, and many others. He has a deep passion for helping executives perform better, possessing a long track record of counseling industry CEOs such as Steve Ballmer at Microsoft, Carly Fiorina at HP, Kevin Johnson at Starbucks, and Stephen Elop at Nokia. And I'm just going to say, Endre, only one of those is still in his current role. Okay, that was an inside joke. Endre studied mechanical engineering as an undergraduate and earned a master's degree in computer science, both in Norway, where he grew up. He also has an MBA from the University of California at Berkeley. He's now in the process of starting his next career in private equity and enjoys sharing his professional experiences with the next generation of leaders. In that capacity, we're very fortunate to have him here with us tonight to share the lessons he wishes he had known when starting out as a fresh graduate from college. Please join me in welcoming Endre.
Thank you.
I just want to say, this is the best turnout we've had ever in this room for an Annenberg lecturer. So I'm not sure whether it's Perry or you that resulted, but it's really nice.
Likely Perry. Well, thank you guys for showing up. I know from Perry and watching him grow through this experience how hard you guys all work and how much you have on your plate already and how much there's still in front of you guys this evening. So thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I feel honored. And I'm glad I can share some of the lessons that I've learned over a professional career that hopefully you can take away and so you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. I will take you through some of those and share a few stories. This is not about the company. It's not about engineering. This is about stuff I learned. So I'll just get going. This is my hometown in Ålesund, Norway. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. This building right here is City Hall. And on the 13th floor in the northwest corner, my dad worked for 38 years. He was an accountant with the local city tax department. He had a job he didn't like. It was very obvious I would go there after school sometimes, and I would go visit him. And 3:15, he got up at 3:30. He would spend the last 20 minutes organizing his desk and getting ready to leave, to then have a life outside of his work that he was very fulfilled with. He was a huge contributor to the community and lived a very, very rich life, but it was outside work. And I realized that, while everybody in this town stays, I realized that I wanted to do something more. My family, my entire family, lived 3 houses on a street. Number 12, number 14, number 16. And so nobody really leaves. But, one of the things that I learned very quickly is I wanted to do something more. Something, I didn't know what it would be. I had some ideas, but I wanted to do something more. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is to think as big as you possibly can. I know that every graduation speech has something about thinking big, but here's an interesting fact for you. 78 million people are between the ages of 74 and 54. These are the baby boomers. They were born between 1946 and 1964. They essentially built the economy as we know it today. They were the most successful and most wealthy generations we've ever had. They're all retiring. And you guys are replacing that tremendous capacity and leadership that has been fueling the economy for so long. They're going to live longer. They're going to need higher return on their investments, so they're going to have all this money going back into investments, looking for ideas and talent. At the same time, there's a scarcity of talent, and this is where you guys are. So you have the most incredible opportunity in front of you in terms of ideas, opportunities to grow, opportunities to do something amazing. And I would just encourage you to think big about what you can invent, what you can do to lead companies, what you can do to grow and use the opportunities. This is going to be an amazing life for you guys. I was fortunate. I started my career right at the beginning of the PC and internet revolution. You guys are front of several big waves: AI, machine learning, robotics, advanced materials. There is an amazing world out there. So think as big as you possibly can, because the opportunity will be there for you. So for me, thinking big at this stage was this. This is what I was meant to do with my life. This is an F-16. When I was a kid, the Norwegian Air Force bought 72 of these airplanes. They're probably the sexiest, most amazing fighter planes that you can ever fly in the military. And this is what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to be a McKinsey consultant. I had no idea that existed. I wanted to fly jets in the Norwegian Air Force. So when I was 5, 6, 7, I had toy airplanes. I would read magazines, and every day in high school I spent getting ready for this. So at the age of 18, in June, I went off to the Air Force base where they had the 2-week acceptance test for the Norwegian Air Force. And of course, I was well prepared. I had studied for the test. I knew what was coming. And there was 2 weeks of motor skills, interviews, physical tests, doing things in the mirror, doing things backwards, doing arithmetic. And every night, they would line us up in a line, and they would start calling names for the people that had to go home. And I remember, I was just breezing through this thing, and I was going to go be a military pilot in the Norwegian Air Force until the very last night before the acceptance test was over. And I remember it well. The sun was going down. The Norwegian flag was up here. There was about 20 of us left. I was standing number 2 from the left-hand side, and they called my name, and they said, "You have to go home." And my entire life, as I had planned it out, was essentially over. It was done. This is what I wanted to do with my life, and now that option was off the table. And that door just closed right in my face, and I didn't know what to do. I had a few drinks. I had a tiny little depression probably. I, kicked, the table, the dog, the whatever, and I was really mad. And then I'm like, all right, maybe I should go to college. And in Norway, fortunately, there's no big essays and 4 recommendations and all that kind of stuff that you guys had to go through. There's no 9-month process to try to get into a college. You get your GPA, and you have your age. That combines into a point system that then lets you choose your major. You get to list 5 majors. I listed applied math, applied physics, computer science, mechanical engineering, civil engineering. I got my 4th major. They put me in mechanical engineering, and that's where I went to school. So 2 weeks later, I'm off to college, and I sort of bounced around college, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and thought this engineering thing was kind of cool. And about 4 or 5 years in, you have to start thinking about what you're going to do with your life. And my goals were very simple. I want to make money, I want to travel. Those were my goals. None of this like save the world or save the environment or give back. It was just, I want to travel and I want to make money. That was it. Now remember, this is like a long time ago. So I know your generation goals have evolved to be more sophisticated and nuanced, but those were my goals, okay? And so then all the Norwegian companies came on campus and they did job fairs and stuff, and they talked about 36-week vacation, 36-hour work week, 6 weeks vacation, free lunch, free daycare, all that stuff, and I'm like, that sounds pretty boring. So 2 companies came on campus and had a proposition that I could identify with. One was Schlumberger, and some of you might know what that is. It's an oil well services company that puts radioactive probes into oil wells to then discover what's around the oil well to figure out what the optimal drilling strategy is. And they take engineers like you and me, and they train them for 6 months, and then you send them for 21 days to some oil platform in Libya or the Mexican Gulf or somewhere in the world. And you do that thing every day for 21 days, and then they send you 21 days to some other place in the world, and you're on vacation. I said, that sounds good. I get to have adventure, I get to travel, and I get to make some money. And then this other company called McKinsey came on campus, and they had a similar pitch, although a little more sophisticated, I must admit. And they said, look, you get to work with the best management in the world. Anywhere in Europe, we send you. On Thursdays, we send you anywhere in Europe you want to go, and then you come back on Monday. And I'm like, that sounds even better. And so I ended up doing this thing with McKinsey. They said, listen, you got to go to the United States and get an MBA. And so I started looking at the United States MBA schools. I had no idea about the United States, never been to the States. And my choices were basically East Coast or West Coast. The Midwest was too cold. And I realized that the sun and California beaches were kind of where I wanted to be. So my selection criteria was that. I want to be on the West Coast on California beaches, so I applied to UCLA, Stanford, and Berkeley. I didn't get into Stanford. I chose Berkeley because it seemed like a great school, and I want to be on the California beaches. Well, showed up in Berkeley, first time in the United States, and it's not like that at all, you know, right? Tie-dye T-shirts, Birkenstock, all that kind of good stuff. It was a fantastic place, and then I ended up at McKinsey, which turned out to be an incredible place for me. McKinsey is, in many ways, an institution I think you guys can identify with. It is an incredibly mission-driven place. Our mission is very simple. It has 2 components to it. A little more sophisticated words than the ones I will use, but any partner, anyone that's associated with us knows this mission cold. And this is how we guide ourselves every day. I know that's how you guide yourself every day with your mission. And it's very simple. It is create lasting, significant impact for companies, which means you got to make a difference for the companies you work with. And number 2 is to recruit, develop, and retain exceptional people. That's it. That's the mission. And I ended up at this amazing place because these doors that I so desperately wanted to walk through closed that summer night at dawn, at dusk, and closed my dreams of being a military pilot. It was the best thing that ever happened. It was the best thing that ever happened because right now I would be a commercial airline pilot, probably unionized, making okay money, being overworked, flying for some struggling airline in Europe at this very moment. So my point is, there are going to be lots of doors that you can walk through. Some will close. Some you might open and look through and go, that's not the right door. But what you have to think about doing is just be willing to accept that some doors will close, but then open a bunch of other doors and walk through them, because your career and your life professionally will be a bit of a winding kind of thing, and you'll get some wonderful, amazing surprises that come out of walking through open doors that you didn't know even existed. So number 1, when one door closes, another one will open, I guarantee it. So then I start McKinsey. I don't know if you guys know a lot about it, but basically we do projects for large companies to help them perform better. And it's demanding but interesting and challenging work. And my very first project was for an insurance company in Denmark. And I'm a brand new MBA graduate. They send me out to this regional office. They are insurance agents that have been in the business for 20, 30 years, and I'm coming out of MBA school, I'm engineer undergrad, and I'm supposed to teach them how to sell insurance better. And I get a little handbook, that is the handbook for how to do that, and it talks about how to mind their customer base, how to teach them how to do better sales calls, and all that kind of stuff. I was so ill-equipped for this thing, mentally and skill-wise, but out I went. And unfortunately, I didn't have the wisdom and I didn't have the foresight to realize that I was struggling. I was actually struggling in my very first project. And so I froze. And about 6 months in, when the results weren't there, I got called by my professional development leader, it's called. It's essentially the person responsible to me. He's a partner. He calls me in and goes, you know, this isn't going very well. And if it's not going better than this in 2 or 3 months, we're going to have to ask you to leave. And McKinsey has a rating system. It's distinctive, tracking plus, tracking minus, issues. So now like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ratings down from the top. And that was my first rating in McKinsey. I was rated issues. They almost fired me. And you know, that was hard. You kind of like, well, I just opened this door and they're ready to fire me after 6 months. And I felt like a failure because I kind of was. And the feedback was very simple, which is one of the most effective pieces of feedback I've gotten, and one of the things that have always stuck with me. I said, what can I do better? And he goes, when you don't know what to do, do something. If you don't know what to do, do something. And I'm like, that sounds like good advice. And you know, what you realize is talented people like you, if you don't know what to do, if you just do something, it's likely to be within the 30% of what's, you know, center, meaning you will do something that's better than doing nothing. And if you do something with everything you have, every opportunity, every time you have the opportunity to do something extra, if you do something, meaning being proactive, being entrepreneurial, over 10 years, the doing something adds up. If you do something every day, it adds up. And you guys are mathematicians. You know that the area under the curve is what matters, right? So if you do something more than what you would have done otherwise, that area actually becomes very large eventually. So one of the examples of that is in 1997, I've been in McKinsey 7 years. I didn't have to do this, but I got the chance to go up to Seattle and start an office. And I decided to just jump on it because I figured doing something is better than doing nothing. So I moved up to Seattle, started an office, ended up serving Microsoft, which is a great company, for 10, 15 years. Made some amazing friends, made a big difference to them. And it was just because I was doing something rather than doing nothing. So as you think about your entry into work life or even relationships, personal friendships, it's always better to do something than to do nothing. Okay? Sounds like simple advice, but if you do it, it has amazing effect. So now I was kind of going along, and things were going a little better because I was actually doing something at McKinsey and in my career. This is me at 15 years old, right here. Very fashionable. And yeah, this is, by the way, this is band camp. I'm not kidding. This is band camp, and I'll talk more about the high school band in a second, but this is band camp. So as I got into McKinsey, I realized everybody was smart, and everybody was amazing. And for quite a while, I had this nagging feeling that maybe I wasn't as good as all the other guys, and maybe I didn't belong there, and maybe I wasn't right for the job. And all throughout my high school, I was having this terrible inner voice. I was the shortest kid in class. I was not particularly strong. I wasn't particularly good at athletics. I wasn't good at sports. I had a terrible case of acne to the point where I begged my mom not to go to school one day. And of course, as any good Norwegian mom, she's like, no, you're going. Of course you're going. But I had a terrible inner voice. And I realized over the years that the inner voice is something you can control, and the inner voice is something you use to your full advantage. The way you talk to yourself is actually the most effective thing you can do to perform well in school, in work, and on things you're working on. And so my inner voice now, and I do this before big meetings. I've been doing this for 28 years. I still do this before big meetings. I have this little chant I do for myself. It basically goes, I'm with McKinsey. They are so lucky that I have decided to show up here today. We have so much to offer to them. The ideas that we have are so good, and they should feel really great about having me come there to talk to them. That's my inner voice when I go to meetings. And I think we all have the inner voice. One of the exercises I've seen done well is, you have people around you write a little note about what they think about you, and then you write your own note. And always, the things people say about you are much more positive than the things you say about yourself, right? You guys are all amazing. You really are. I mean, and you all have some talent. I bet you there's a musician, there's an athlete, there's somebody who's just an incredible interpersonal human being. There are great friends. There are big entrepreneurs. You guys are all amazing. So train your inner voice to actually tell you who you really are, because you are likely to undervalue yourself rather than overvalue yourself as you go forward. So inner voice is a big, big thing. So as I got into McKinsey and in work life, I realized that you can't really force good things to happen. You just have to be in a position to score when they happen. So that means develop new skills, make new relationships happen, so that when they have something that they would like you to do, they actually know who you are. Grow in terms of who you are, in terms of the communication skills you have, and so forth. So in other words, put yourself in a position to score, so that when the opportunities that you want come along, you're actually ready. Because sometimes being ready and being present and being there is 75 to 80% of the game when it comes to making things happen for yourself. This is, I love soccer. When you grow up in Europe, you realize that football is a European sport, and football, as you know it, is just a little niche kind of thing. But the real sport is football. So I'm a big football fan, European football. And Zlatan Ibrahimovic is one of the best players in the world when it comes to being in a position to score. He was the top scorer. He grew up in the project in Sweden. He was a Serbian immigrant family son, and he was the top scorer in the Spanish league, in the Italian league, in the French league, and was on the way to do that in the English Premier League before he got injured. And I want you to notice just how he positions himself so that when the opportunity to score comes, he's actually in the right spot. Let me see here. I'm not a Mac user, but we'll figure it out. It just happens to be the best goal ever scored, too.
Barcelona striker wasn't done with that, scoring a fourth in added on time. Hart's header never looked good enough, but he didn't bank on the incredible improvisation and skill from Ibrahimovic, whose staggering overhead kick found the net.
Look how he steps back and just waits for the opportunity to score. So my point is, you're going to have lots of opportunities in life to put yourself in positions when the opportunity comes, you're ready. You can just tap it in or do whatever you want to think about. But putting yourself in a position to score is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Because some people say, these people are always lucky. Well, there's a reason for that, because they're always in the right place. Well, how do you get in the right place? Well, you put yourself there, right? So be in a position to score. So I came to McKinsey to spend 3 years there to learn some management skills and then go become a general manager in a company. That was the plan. And for most people that go into management consulting, that is the plan. And for most people, that is the reality. And we lose about 15% a year, and 98% of the people that leave us are extremely happy with the experience they had. And, but most people come to stay 3 years and go do something else. The reason I've stayed 28 years is because it is one of the most amazing places to learn and grow. Every 6 months you get an evaluation. It's part evaluation, it's part development. You get evaluated on a very strict set of criteria. There are very clear, specific definitions for the role, so you have to be fulfilling and growing into the role. And every 6 months you get ranked, and you get your distinctive tracking plus, tracking minus ratings. And you get this constant feedback. And sometimes it feels like one of those medieval torture chambers where, you know, they put shackles on you and then they stretch you, and everything hurts. And it's felt like that. But we take people that come out of undergrad or MBA schools, and they know very little about business and how real companies work. They just do. I mean, it's just how it is. And within 6, 7 years, they are peers of executives in large companies in their area. And you can't do that without tremendous personal growth. And one of the reasons I've stayed so long is because of this growth. And I just had my review about a year ago, and I did 5 things good, and there was one thing that they absolutely kicked my behind on. They're like, you got to do better on this because you are now one of our most senior people, and we can't accept what you're doing here, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So my point is, when you guys go out in the workforce, you are not being interviewed, you're also interviewing, right? You're being interviewed, but you're also interviewing companies. You're interviewing companies to see if you accept their promise to you. And that is a two-way street. In this environment, it's a war for talent, and you are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. The most important question you can ask of an employer or an institution that you want to be part of is, what is your position and practices and values and mission as it relates to developing people? What are the opportunities that I can get? How are you thinking about my development? What is your value system when it comes to developing people? How do you think about making the best out of the talent in your company? Because the organization you would want to be at is the one that you feel you will grow the most at. And if they don't care about that, you should just leave the interview and go somewhere else. But you have to find a place that develops you and that you will grow at. And the best companies in the world have figured this out, and they will. But your most important interview question to a company is, how are you thinking about development of people? That's the number one question, and that's the one that will make you the most happy and most rewarded as you learn and grow. So, fast forward about 12 years into my career, and this is the second time I almost got fired from McKinsey. You know, I was about 15 years into it by now, and I was by all means doing well. I had big clients, I was doing really important work, and I felt on top of the world. I had worked really hard, and I invested, and everything was going right. Everything was just perfect. My evaluator, he was a Spanish senior partner. It's a peer evaluation when you get to that stage. His name was Juan Hoyos, and he served banks in Portugal and Spain. And he was lack of better, he was a shorter guy, but he was a big guy, and he had this booming voice. We would sit down for dinner, and he would give me my evaluation. Usually he was very kind and this and that. And this one time we sat down for dinner, and he opened a bottle of red wine, he poured it, and we toasted, and he goes, "Ah!" This was his voice, I'm serious. "You are an asshole." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Your colleagues, your peers, think you're an asshole." And I'm like, "That's not good, is it?" He goes, "No, that is not good at all." And then we talked a little bit about it. Of course, I got mad, I got defensive, I got sad, and probably 3 other emotions that I can't even name. But, after about 2 or 3 days of that, I realized he was actually right. And I got in this place where I was super busy, and I figured that anyone that was lucky enough to be in my system would get opportunities, and they should just do what I told them to do, and the work would get done. And the honest truth was, the work was getting done, and it was getting done very efficiently and very effectively, and the people that were on the team had opportunities, and they were successful, but they actually weren't enjoying the process. They were not enjoying the process because they didn't have opportunities to be empowered, or to feel valued, or to feel like they could take initiative. Because they were in the system just doing their thing as a cog in the wheel. And I realized this very quickly because I talked to all of them, and I asked for feedback, and this all came out. As soon as you open up yourself to feedback, this all comes out. And what I realized is that there are multiple leadership models here. And we were chatting with Werner and some of his students earlier today, and I'm so glad you guys are getting some of this into your curriculum, but there are so many different leadership models out there, and as you think about going into the workforce and you are on teams and you're trying to lead people, think about, I don't know what the right word is, but think about a servant leadership model or a involved leadership model or a team leadership model. Don't think about a hierarchical leadership model. Think about a leadership model that lets everyone on your team, in your group, feel valued, feel inspired, feel like they are immensely empowered, feel like they're immensely accountable, feel like you are just there to help them out, support them, develop them, make them grow, make them have the most amazing experience. And once you do that, you realize that the performance of the entire group and the team and the satisfaction just goes up. So for about the last 10 years, I have deliberately and some will say successfully changed my entire mindset around leadership and leadership model to one where I'm just helping, supporting, motivating, inspiring. And the good thing is, not surprisingly, you get better people working with you, you get better results, everybody's happier, we're having more fun, and everybody else is doing the work, and I don't have to do any of the work because everybody's just like performing like crazy, and all you do is like run around and motivate and give appreciation, and the bucket of appreciation is never empty. You can just like keep grabbing stuff out of there and just throw it out there, and it never gets empty. So as you think about who you are and who you are as leaders, think about that and the servant leadership model and the inspiring leader that is just part of the team as opposed to this guy up there, which I used to be at the top of that table. So, hard lesson to learn, but I'm glad I learned it. Final couple pieces. Teamwork. We're all strong, talented individuals. We all like to be in charge. We all like to be self-sufficient. And one of the things you realize is if you can get a team to work, it beats any collection of individuals performing individually. One of the most interesting projects I did, it's many, many years ago. It was for a big paper company in Finland and Sweden. They basically do paper. They have big paper machine. They take trees, they chop them up, they crush them, they stir them together, and they put them into a big machine, and paper comes out. And this was back in maybe 2000, maybe a little earlier than that. And they basically asked a very fundamental question. The internet is coming, digital revolution is coming, PCs are coming. What will that do to paper consumption? And there are 3 different types of paper. There's newsprint, uncoated free sheet, it's called, which is office paper, and coated free sheets, which is magazine paper, glossy paper that you can put pictures on. And they wanted to know McKinsey's thoughts on what would happen in 10 years to the consumption of those paper grades. So we put a team on it, and the McKinsey team is just a wonderful thing because we all know how to work together. So we took a Canadian PhD, we took a Norwegian engineer, we had an Indian CS major, and we had, I think, an MD from the United States, and we were all on the team. We basically locked ourselves in a room for 8 weeks, and we analyzed all this data about email traffic, about magazine consumption, this, that, and the other, and built this beautiful Excel spreadsheet model that basically aggregated all the endpoints of where time was spent and figured out substitution of paper versus digital communication and built it all up for about 8 weeks. And it was like darkness in the forest for 8 weeks. The model showed nothing, and it wasn't done yet, and it was just like building up, and everybody was doing their part. It was a well-choreographed machine, and it was 8 weeks of hard work where we didn't know what the answer was going to be. And one day, this team, they worked 16 hours a day, it all just sort of popped out. And you have to be a geek and an engineer and a McKinsey guy to appreciate the beauty of this, but it all sort of just popped out. Like 3 lines that had 10 years on it, 1 for each paper category, with the tonnage that we thought would be. And it was like, whoa, 4 people beautifully working together for about 8 weeks, and the answer just popped out one day. And it turned out to be an answer that was directionally completely right. I looked at it 10 years later. It was directionally completely right. It was precisely wrong, meaning the very specific parts of it was wrong, but it was directionally completely correct. And one of the things I learned is I could have 4 people doing that individually instead of sitting together, working as a team with clear roles and specific goals. Could never have done that as individuals. So my point is, teamwork is one of the most important things you can learn to be good at. This, by the way, is Barcelona. It's the most successful soccer team probably in the history of soccer. And they won 8 out of 11 national championships, 3 championships, cup finals in the last 10, 15 years. And the reason they're so good is they invented a completely new way to play soccer. It's called tiki-taka. And basically what it is, it's a completely team-oriented approach to soccer. You basically have triangles that are never more than 10 feet apart. And basically, the ball just goes between them in short passes. And they move the entire team up as a unit, and they move the entire team back as a defensive unit, and they move the entire team up. And they basically have more possession than the other guys, and the other guys just run around chasing them as individuals most of the time. And when you have the ball more, you have more chances. When you have more chances, you score more. When the other team have the ball less, they have less chances and they score less. So these guys are the most winning team in probably the history of European soccer. And it's because of the team. The players are good, but the teamwork is amazing. So the point is, one of the things you can do to distinguish yourself as you head forward in your careers in life is be the best team player you can, which means be good about working teams, be helpful to others, know your role, be accountable, do your part, always strive to make the team better. If something is wrong, work to make the team better. And if the team wins, you'll be immensely successful. Final couple of things. Invest in yourself, be interesting. Here's the thing. Successful people want to be with other interesting, successful people. That's just the fact. So the best thing you can do for yourself is to be interesting and be interested. Meaning learn a skill, have a hobby, do something unique. When I read resumes to screen for candidates for McKinsey, I probably read 1,000 resumes a year, maybe less now, but used to. You screen. And of course, everybody has a 4.0 GPA, unless you're from Harvey Mudd. But then there's a nice little explaining thing that explains that you guys are not like any other school or something like that. But we know that. But most of them are 4.0, 4.0, 4.0, great academic. And the most interesting part, and which makes you go left or right in the pile, is not that. That's a given. Because the kind of people we see and the kind of people Google see and the kind of people Microsoft sees, that's a given. Of course you're going to have 34 on the ACT. I mean, of course. Or 32 or something up there. The most interesting part is the other category. All the other stuff. I was the social coordinator for the entire school, or I was, as one person said on his resume, I was an instructor at a small military pilot training school in Southern California. Of course, I looked at that, I asked him, what does that mean? And he goes, well, it was done in Miramar. He was a Top Gun instructor. Of course that's interesting, right? So the most interesting part of your resume, for me, is the other. All the other stuff that makes you the person you are. I have a friend, he's a governor in North Dakota. His hobby is to collect maps. He collects geographical maps. He collects old maps. He collects maps that are data maps of different trends. He collects 3D maps. And whenever we meet, there's 15, 20 minutes about his maps. And it's wonderful, and it's super interesting. And I have another friend, he happens to be a pilot, so he has his own plane. Of course, we talk about that. I have a third friend, he happens to have a boat, but the more interesting part is he has rented the next slip over, and he has a floating jacuzzi. Right? And this is just interesting, quirky stuff. So one of the best things you can do is to be interesting and be interested in other people. And that means learning a new hobby or new skill or something like that, you know, that sets you apart, but also enriches your life. I mean, I don't know about you, but spending all my time doing calculus and Fourier transformations and then my CS homework and nothing else, that is not a full meal for my soul, right? You need something more. So whether that's exercise or this or that or learning something. So in that spirit, I've always had lots of things going on, lots of hobbies, but about 3 years ago, I realized that I was too much of an engineer and I was not enough of a creative person. And so I decided that my left brain, I think it is, was vastly underused and my right brain was taking over too much. And I've always admired people that could perform or do something that requires creative talent. And I was in high school band because my mom made me. And I was trombone, and I was sit third chair. And I wasn't very good, and I didn't practice. But I certainly wasn't very good and talented. And every year, I started at 7, I left at 16. Every year, I was in third chair. Some little kid would come in. They would sit here, because that's where you start. And then all of a sudden, they were sitting here. And then they were sitting over there in first chair. And I never actually moved at all. So I'm like, well, it's enough of that. So about 6 months ago, I decided I was going to learn a creative skill, and I decided I was going to learn to sing. Perry knows I can't sing. Right? Completely true. And so I was going to learn to sing. And I always wanted to be the guy that could sit down at the piano and play something or do something. And because it's big and scary for me. It's not an easy thing to learn when you all mechanical engineering, computer science major. It's just not very easy. So I was going to learn to sing. So you know Frank Sinatra, right? Okay.
He's not involved.
No, he's not, but his songs are good. I live a life that's full. I travel each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. So the point is, always work on yourself to be interesting or interested. It just makes you have better friends, better friendships, more fun, and enjoy life more. This is my mom and dad. They are the best parents ever. They are both 80. My mom is just, I think, this might actually be the graduation day when we were at Harvey Mudd together at the hotel, I think. So my mom is like super mom. She's like, whenever I come home, she's like, you're not eating enough, you're traveling too much, you're too stressed out. I'm like, Mom, I'm not. And she goes, no, you are. You got to slow down. And but she's always running around and with food and just taking care. She's like the most loving person. My dad, he is just a great man, and he got the Royal Medal of Honor in Norway about 4 years ago for his contributions to society. He is the president of the local sports club. And he has been fundraising and doing new facilities and leading this place to where they've gotten into multiple new sports over the last 3 decades, all because of the facilities and energy he's put in. He's just a fantastic man. I call him every Sunday, and I call him religiously, and there's nothing really new to report. The weather's bad. Somebody got sick. Everything is good. All the grandchildren are fine. And we just have the same conversation pretty much every Sunday. And it's wonderful. It is very comforting, it's very wonderful, and it's beautiful. But it's the same conversation. I don't need to do that. But here's the point. The point is, no matter how much success you have in your professional life, in your career, or in your personal life, there will be a time where you will need your parents. And I mean this metaphorically speaking, meaning your support network. When I say call your mom and dad, I mean have a support network that when things happen, they will be there for you. Because it is a guarantee that you will get fired, you will get sick, you will have a hard time on something. There will be a time when you're going to need to call mom. I guarantee it. It happened to me. It might not have happened to you, but it sure will. And it's so nice to have somebody who you have invested in that cares, because you put in the time and you have the relationship, and you have somebody that are on your speed dial, that when the shit hits the fan, you can call. So invest in your support network. Call your mom, call your dad, call your friends, and just talk, because you will need it at some point. I guarantee that. That's one thing that's certain in life. You will need that. Okay? So call your mom. So, those are my lessons. So, dream big, inner voice, be proactive. When one door opens, another one closes. Doing nothing seldom works. Be interesting, be interested. Teamwork, call your mom, and teamwork. And then that little thing about flying, that ended up actually becoming true for me eventually. So, when one door closes, it might open some other time in life, Don't be too sad. So thank you. I really appreciate the time. I hope there were some good lessons for you. I'll take a few questions if we have time.
That was amazing. The only thing I don't like is all the soccer. Did you find something other than soccer with male players? I mean, just look at all those photos. However, that was absolutely spectacular. I'm sure we have questions. Yes.
I hate to be the non-student, but I hope that I'm breaking the ice.
Okay, good, good.
It looks like you are in a unique situation, being a...
Yeah, you don't need to know.
Originally from Europe and working in the United States. I want to propose something, and I'm looking for you to agree or disagree with me. That some of your advice is more applicable to a European environment than to the American one. So please agree or disagree with me.
Well,
disagree.
I can't really comment on that. The facts are, I've worked in the United States all my life, and this is where I learned my lessons. I think they're good lessons. So I hope they apply to the United States. I can't really comment on the difference between Europe and the United States. They seem to apply. They seem to be good ones.
But in the context of business,
yeah.
What about the time horizons, the European time horizons in business versus an American one?
Yeah.
And its effect on those advice?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I will say 20 years ago, the business in Europe was very different than the business in the United States. But, last 10 years, it's globalized so much. The executives of European companies are often from other nationalities. and vice versa. It is one business world now, more or less. And so I worked in Finland for 5 years. It was like working for an American company by all standards. And many of the lessons and business practices were about the same, So, yes, up there. Yeah, you.
Hi. You talked about teamwork and accountability.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, if you keep yourself accountable, but one of your team members doesn't do that, and it's kind of affecting your work and overall just like the dynamic of the team, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very common issue. We see it sometimes in McKinsey teams. Not very often, but sometimes. What you do is you have to address it. You have to sit down and as a team or individually talk about the fact that this is what you see, this is how it affects the team or you, and this is what you propose we do different or listen. You can't just let it go, because if you let it go, you're not a team anymore. You just have to sit down and address it. And there are then multiple, you'd be surprised at how much can come up. Well, I don't know how to do it, or I don't have time, or I didn't, and then you find a way to solve it. But if you want to be a high-performing team, you just have to address that. And you have to address it early. You can't just take over or compensate, because then you're not a team. I mean, part of being on the team and getting the benefit of the team is that you're a full team member and you're accountable to the team. Yes?
Hi. So I was curious, you talked a lot about teamwork and putting yourself in a position where also contacting your parents who seem like in some ways they're role models. But I didn't see you explicitly sort of elaborate on how you found good role models and like kept yourself motivated and encouraged to like pursue those dreams and also to identify what those dreams are.
Yeah. So it's a great question, and to be honest, I didn't have, for the first 20 years of my college and after college experience, I actually didn't have role models because I didn't think I needed it. I was very self-sufficient. I was that guy that sat up on that table and was the boss, kind of. I was very self-sufficient, and I didn't really need anyone else. And therefore, I wasn't actively seeking mentors or role models. And that worked for me for a while. But it didn't work as well as it could, and I wish I'd done it differently. I would have had much richer professional life earlier if I had looked for role models, or more importantly, mentors and people that I could depend on. In the last 10 years, I've had lots of great role models and friends that have helped me. I've asked for help. I've told them what I'm working on. I've been vulnerable. I told them what I'm not good at. And I've been like, hey, can you help me? Because this is not working for me, so I just need some help. And funny enough, people pick up and they help you, and you become better friends through the process. But you're right. I didn't have many to start with. Now I do, and I wish I'd done that much earlier. It's so important. And you'd be surprised at how much help you get when you ask for help. Like, the most senior people, they want to help young people. Or your peers want to help people. So if you just ask, sometimes they don't know you need it. Sometimes you got to be explicit. I need help with this, and this is what I think you can do, and that would mean a lot to me. Back there.
Yeah, so when you said that guy gave you that harsh feedback about how you were treating your coworkers,
Yes.
how did you fix that afterwards?
Yeah. Well, so the reality is, it was a very quick fix for me in the sense that it was all up here. It wasn't like my mechanics or complicated behaviors. It was all right here in terms of my mindset. And so as soon as I got the feedback from him, within 2 or 3 days, I'm like, okay, I get it, and I understand it, and I need a different mindset. Once you have a good mindset, a lot of things just come naturally, Of course, there are some behaviors you got to adjust, but it kind of flows from the mindset. You can't fix a big problem unless you go to the root. And the root of the problem was what was up here, in terms of how I saw myself and how I saw others working with me. So once I fixed that, that was pretty straightforward. The hardest problem was the perception of other people changes much more slowly than your behaviors. It took me 2 years to get the perception of other people to change. Part of it, I accelerated. I got a coach. I interviewed 30 people. But I knew what was going to come back. I knew exactly what they were going to say. But it was important to go through a process that showed the world that I was actually changing. But it took 2 years. And even now, this is about 10 years ago, even now, in some corner of McKinsey, when I come in contact with somebody who I've not worked with for 10 years, they're like, I'm not so sure. Are you sure you've changed? And I'm like, yeah, I actually have. But it takes a long time to change the perception. But most importantly, it's the mindset. You have to believe in that it's good to be on teams, and you have to believe in being kind to people. You have to believe that it's more important to get everything out of everybody on the team by being inspiring and kind and putting them first and yourself second. Yes?
So I have a question about, you mentioned putting yourself in a position to score.
Yeah.
So do you see there as being a dichotomy between training yourself to be specialized so that if a problem comes up, everyone knows that you're the person to solve that specific class of problem, or training yourself to learn like new skills or be more of a generalist so that you could solve any problem no matter what comes up?
No, I don't necessarily. I mean, I think, let's say you're a specialist, right? You can take a very narrow definition of that, which is sit in an office and write papers and be very deep, right? Or you can do that, and you can go to conferences, you can speak in industry events, you can write in more popular magazines, you can create all kinds of opportunities, even if you're specialized, to have more doors open for you and putting yourself in a position to score. I think it's not about specialist, generalist. It's about the things you do to create opportunities when they open up for you. The thing is, you can't force opportunities to happen. It's not like, I want a job in Microsoft and I want it in this department and I want it tomorrow. That is not a very successful job searching strategy. I guarantee you that. But if you just generally put yourself in that position, interact with them, you know, make yourself available, do this or that, be on a clinic project, you know, whatever. Eventually somebody will call and go, I have this amazing opportunity in AI, in Microsoft research, and I need you on it. So, yes, oh, where? There, okay, yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I just wanted to ask, I have two questions. The first question is, what do you think is made you the most successful in your career? And the second question, I really like reading books. So I was wondering if you have any books that changed your life that you would advise us to read.
Yeah, I do. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Yeah, and sometimes the simplest stuff is the best stuff, you know. Just be organized, be this, be timely, you know, be proactive. I mean, that's like, sometimes the simplest stuff is the best stuff. In terms of what made me successful, I would say 2 parts. I wish the first part had been much shorter and the second part had been much longer. But they were both important, don't get me wrong. So I go back to high school and do a little advanced psychoanalytics on myself. I was a little kid, my dad was a big athlete, I was never good at sports, but I worked hard at it, and at 16 I grew, and I became very good at sports, and I was successful. So all of a sudden I liked winning, and winning became important. So because I realized how bad I felt not winning, and I realized how good it felt winning. So when I entered the workforce, and college and workforce, it was about winning. It was about being successful and getting to the next badge and getting to the next promotion and getting the next result. And I spent 10, 15 years doing that. And that made me successful. It didn't make me happy and fulfilled. And there was a different path that I could have taken that probably would have gotten to the same place, maybe a better place. And then now, for the last 10, 15 years, it's been more about creating that inclusive team environment, inspiring, motivating, creating a bigger purpose for a bigger group of people. And that got tremendous success too. I wish the first one had been shorter and the second one been much longer. Yeah.
Towards the end of the presentation, you talked about how you're almost a half-time buyer because you're priced so much as a consultant working for McKinsey. I'm just wondering, how do you balance your work and family in this kind of situation?
Yeah. It was not easy. Trust me, it was not easy. There were many times where you know, you sit in Dallas on a Thursday, Friday night, and it's Perry's or Benji's birthday and there's thunderstorms and you can't get home and it's just not good. I think I was pretty good at creating some boundaries, meaning weekends were usually always free for me. And I tried to be home 1 or 2 nights a week, even if it meant taking a 6 o'clock flight the next day and making some personal sacrifices. I think you have to be, so it's very hard to be on top of your game in any industry and not work hard. I'm not saying you can't have work-life balance, but it is a constant struggle to get it right. I will say that. But you have to be good about setting boundaries for yourself. You have to be very organized. You have to be very thoughtful about what you do and what you don't do. And many of you will struggle, but I think you can manage it better than if you don't try to manage it. But the reality is you guys are going to have demanding jobs. They will be hard jobs, most likely. And you have to work very hard at creating boundaries, prioritize, cut through things. And that's the biggest thing. So for me, it was about creating boundaries and organizing the work in such a way it could get done faster. But, I wouldn't say I was perfect at it.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah. Yes.
You talked about 2 things that were really important to you, and those being feedback and having a positive inner voice. I was just wondering about how you balance the idea of giving yourself feedback to critique yourself and continually improve with also having a positive inner voice and self-image that all internally motivates you.
Yeah. So, it's a great question. So first of all, on feedback. When somebody is very close to you and work with you, who by all means have your best interests at heart, give you feedback, you have to listen. Because they're doing it from a very good place in their heart. They actually want to help you get better. So when it comes from people that are very close to you or work on teams and have good intentions, even if the feedback is tough, you have to listen and you have to take it in and you have to act on it because the only place it's coming from is from the heart and from a way that is positive and they want to make you work. They want to help you. So feedback is a gift. Now, there are sometimes, people say feedback, but what they really want to do is something else. So you got to get, that sorted out sometimes. When it comes to inner voice, it's always, you have to believe in yourself. Feedback is not criticism. It is a way to help you get even better. And that's how I take it. It's, I know what I do. I know what I do well. I know what I'm working on. I know how important it is. I know how good I am at it. But feedback is a great thing that helps me grow even more. So I don't take that as, I only take it as building me up as opposed to tearing me down. No, it takes me a while to get there. And you got to get some wins under your belt before you really believe that. But that's the way to think about it. So.
Okay, let's give Endre another great round of applause. Okay, I'm just going to say one of the best ever.
Oh, thank you.
Really. We have dessert waiting for you guys out there, but I also want to remind you that we have another Annenberg lecture on March 20th. It will be with, it's a Mudd alum, class of 1997, Tiffany Scurry. And, the best thing about these events is an opportunity to learn from other people's experience who've had a lot of experience. And the thing I loved about your talk is I think we all learn best from failures. But there are very few people who are willing to be really open about their failures. And I just want to say we learn best. It's also the most painful. But you are so awesome. So thank you.